In the last lesson, we finished the feed view. If you missed that lesson, check out the entire playlist right over here. In this lesson, we're going to allow the user to tap on the thumbnail to show up the detail view and to watch the video. Let's dive right in. So we already stubbed out the video detail view. Let's start by triggering this and showing this as a sheet when the user taps on a video. Now, how are we going to do this? So there is a sheet that you can bind to a property up here that you can define, which we are going to define as selected video. So when the user taps on a video row, we're going to capture that gesture and set that selected video property, which is then going to trigger this sheet. And then content is what you want to show on that sheet. So let's choose that. Let's create this state property up here and call it selected video. This is going to be nil at first. We're going to bind to the selected video. And as for the content, so this parameter stores the value of that, which is the selected video. And here we're going to show the video detail view. Okay, let's capture the tap gesture on this. So on tap gesture, we are going to set the selected video equals V. And let's see if this works. All right, perfect. Now the next step, let us pass the video details into the sheet. So we're going to do that by, in the video detail view here, let's accept a video. Again, I'm going to blow away the preview. And then in the feed view, we are going to now pass in V, which is the selected video. All right, so now let's configure this a little bit. So we're going to have a sheet where the top bit is the video player and the bottom bit is the title and description. So we're going to need a VStack sort of setup here. And let's set the alignment to leading, because that makes sense for the text. We're going to have our video player here, which we're going to get to, and we're going to have the title and description here. So I want this scrollable in case the content is a lot. And inside the scroll view, I'm going to create another VStack. This one should be alignment left as well. I don't know if I need the first one then. And in here, I want to put the title and the description. So this is going to have a piece of text, and it's going to be video.snippet.title. And if that doesn't exist, I'll put empty string. And I'm going to want to make this one headline font. And I'll bold it as well. And I'll add some padding to the bottom just to give it a little bit of space. You know, instead of this, I can actually add the spacing here because there's only 2 elements in here. So I'm going to add the spacing of 30 right there. And so I don't have to put the padding there. And then I'm going to put the description. So this is going to be video.snippet.description instead. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so I've got the title, I've got the description, but I need to add some padding. I'm going to add the padding to the scroll view. Should I do only horizontal? No, probably I'll add it in all directions. All right, so that looks a little better. Oh, scroll indicator. Let's get rid of that too. Scroll indicator hidden. Okay. All right, no scroll indicators. This looks good. I hope you're enjoying the lesson so far. Now, just in case you want to launch your own app, I want to tell you about CWC Plus. This step-by-step program will help you launch your own app even if you don't have any experience. And it takes about 4 months. If this sounds like something you're interested in, I have a special offer for you. I'll leave the link in the description below this video. and hopefully I'll see you there. If not, no worries. I really appreciate that you're here watching this lesson and learning with us. So thank you for that. Anyways, now back to the lesson. Now, I do want to spend a moment and talk about what options we have when it comes to displaying YouTube videos in our app. Now, we could use a web view and display an embedded YouTube video, but they also have a client library for us to use, how to embed YouTube videos in iOS applications with the YouTube helper library. Essentially, they're doing the same thing, but they're making it, because they're using an iframe player, they're making it a little easy for you, but this uses Objective-C. So this is an option as well, which is a little easier than showing your own web view and trying to put the player, like the actual web embed code in there. The third option, which I explored, was to use YouTube Player Kit. And this library worked really well with SwiftUI, and it was really easy to use and honestly saved a lot of time. So I didn't even consider the other options. And this is what we're going to be using with this demo. So this library from Sven seems pretty active. As you can see here, last issue was closed 2 days ago, and the last pull request was merged about a month ago. As with any third-party libraries, when you use them, you're creating a dependency from your project to depend on third-party code. And the risk is that that third-party code becomes out of date, it's not maintained, and it becomes buggy, and then that affects your app. So there is a sort of risk-reward consideration here. On one hand, you could roll your own, and even depending on this library itself is third-party code. I mean, rolling your own would be the best thing, but that would take the most effort and take the most time, versus using a third-party library saves you a ton of time, and you have to gauge whether or not it's worth the risk. In this case, this was really easy to use and it worked beautifully in SwiftUI. Seems active. I think the risk is low, so that's why I decided to use this. All right, so let's dive in and integrate this YouTube Player Kit into our project. Let's hit this blue button saying use this package, and we can use Swift Package Manager to directly import it into our project. Now, you know how in lesson 2 we created a demo project to test out sending network requests and receiving responses from the YouTube Data API? This would be a perfect opportunity to do the same. Whenever I'm trying something new, I start a new Xcode project, test it out. If it works, put it into your main project. I've done that, so I'm not going to go through that again with you and then spend an extra lesson doing that. What I'm going to do is just directly put it into my main project. But in the future, when you're working on your own stuff, I'm just letting you know, you might want to consider not, especially because we're not using source control here. If you are playing around with your code, you're importing things and you mess something up, it's hard to roll back, right? So definitely test things out in a different project first. With that said, let's import this directly into our thing. So go to File, Add Package Dependencies, and I copied that URL. We're going to just enter it right there. And there it is, YouTube Player Kit. You can go ahead and hit Add Package. And while that's going on, let's come back here and scroll down and take a look at how we use this thing. So looking at this code snippet, you import YouTube Player Kit first, and then you create the YouTube Player view, and it looks like you just pass in the URL just like that. So as an initial test, why don't we just do exactly this? So we're going to copy that, going to go back here. Oh, okay, let's add package. There it is. So in the video detail view, we're going to import YouTube Player Kit, and then under video player, we're just going to plop it in right there. And we are going to run this now and see what happens. All right, so it's good. It's showing a video, but notice that the frame is much larger than the space that we have. It plays. That's great. Okay, so the controls are there. The video itself is it doesn't look wider than the space that we have. It looks like it's fitting the width. However, it does look like there's a lot of black space at the top and the bottom, because when you load this up, it takes up so much height. So we might have to set the width, just set the frame for this so that it fits in the space that we have. And also, we don't want to be displaying this video, so why don't we try inserting our own ID into here dynamically. So this would be video.snippet. But as you can see, there's something wrong here, because as I'm trying to do this, it is not working, right? The autocomplete is not showing up. So we actually cannot do it this way. We can't just insert a wildcard into a parameter like this. Why don't we take a look at some other methods that we can use this, and perhaps that would work for us. Okay, so this is ultimately what I ended up using right here. So you can configure the YouTube player like this first, where you can actually pass in a dynamic video ID, and then you would then you could use that video player view. So let's copy this, and instead of, well, let's configure it here. Okay, and then we are going to add our ID there. So this would be video.snippet.resource ID.video ID. And if that happens to be nil, we'll pass an empty string. And I don't want it to autoplay, so I'm going to set that to false. And then with this configuration, if you go back to this page, you can see that you can just pass in this configuration into the YouTube player view. Yeah, so it looks something like this. This is what we did. We configured something, and then we can pass it into the YouTube player view like that. I forgot exactly the snippet of code when I was looking through this. But yeah, if you take the time to read through that, there's a lot more cool stuff that I can do. But I'll just show you how to do it here. So when you create the configuration like that, this is YouTube player, you can even call it like, okay. So instead of specifying the URL right here, we can actually pass in the YouTube player, the thing that we created up here. So I'm going to run it, and this allows us to specify that dynamic ID. So there's my video. It's still, the frame isn't working properly, right? Okay. But it is displaying the correct video, and it is working. Right, so perfect. Now we need to figure out how we can set this frame for this video player so that it fits in the space. So you would just go frame, and you would set a width and height. The problem is that we need to know what that is. So using Geometry Reader, we can take a look at how much width we have. And we are essentially going to create the Geometry Reader up here. And we are going to cut the whole VStack, and we're going to paste it inside the Geometry Reader. And now, because this VStack is inside the Geometry Reader here, we have access to proxy. So the width is going to be proxy.size.width. That gives us the width of the screen, because Geometry Reader, the purpose of this is to read the size information. And so this parameter gives us a reference to the sizes. Now that we have the width, we can make sure that it is the proper width, but we have to set a proper height as well. And so only setting the width is not going to work. The question is, what should we set the height to, and how do we figure that out? Well, we can express the height as a ratio of the width. We need to figure out for these YouTube videos that get displayed, what is the aspect ratio? And one clue that we have is if we go back to, I can open up Proxyman again, but essentially I want to figure out, let's just comment this out for a second. What is that ratio between the width and the height? And there are various ways to get this, but all right, let's take a look at this. I'm going to get the clue from the thumbnail sizes. So if we take a look at the items and we take a look at the thumbnails, we did the medium one, right? So 320 by 180. So if the width is 320, then what is the height? 320 divided by 180. The ratio is, the width is 1.78, sorry, 78 times larger than the height. So we would reverse that in order to get the height because we have the width. So we would divide 320 by that in order to get 180. Let's see if the math works out. So 320 divided by 1.7778 gives us 180. So that's how we're going to get the height. So coming back here, if Proxy Geometry Reader is going to give us the width, then we could calculate the height by taking proxy.size.width divided by, 8. Let's take a look. So this should work. And sure enough, we have the appropriate width and height. The cool thing was that this would also work like this if we, especially if we ignore safe area. So that's why you see this part here. So if we go back to the home view, we can say ignore safe area. This might get it to go, there's that padding there though, so I don't want to add that padding there. I do want the tab view to be full. Perfect, but now we need to add a padding to the feed view. We'll probably put it in here. Let's put the padding. Oh, probably just padding horizontal. Okay. All right, our YouTube Player app looks and feels pretty good. If you enjoyed this build, please give it a thumbs up, and if you were able to complete it, please comment down below, I did it. Now check out our other app builds and series here on YouTube, or if you want a structured learning path proven by thousands of students, check out our CWC Plus program down in the description below. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video series.